No one's won the NFC East 2 years in a row since
Crazy.
2004, so you can't pick the Cowboys.
Right.
We are talking about America's team. How about them Cowboys? Cowboys division champions last year. Mm-hmm. You think they'll be better or worse?
I'm going to say they are not going to be as good in 2019 as they were in 2018.
But you have, I would assume, some sort of evidence
I do.
to back up this belief.
I do have some evidence. They were a 10-6 team a year ago after nearly firing Jason Garrett in mid-season, which was interesting. So they won the division. They won a playoff game. They look pretty impressive in the postseason. I think the Rams, maybe weren't at the Rams level, but
coming off a bye.
Sure. And they were competitive against the Rams for a chunk of that game. So you'd figure they're in good shape to be the same team in 2019. But 10-6 team with an 8.4 win Pythagorean expectation. It sounds complicated. All it is just you're using your point differential, because that's a better indicator of success than a win-loss record and predicting win-loss record the following year. So typically with the Cowboys, you're a team where you're expecting them to be about where that expectation falls. They were a team that were 8-2 in games decided by 7 points or less last year. And that's really, really hard to pull off. Even if you have a talented young roster, you can't do that year after year. And it's hard to expect the Cowboys, who have not done that with Jason Garrett in years past, to do that again in 2019.
All right, well, setting aside the well-known historical fact that Pythagoras hated the Cowboys.
He did.
We all know this. They're a team that's a little different. In this high-octane passing era, they want to run the ball with Ezekiel Elliott, bleed the clock. They don't want to run the most offensive plays of anybody in the league. They want to keep that under control. So is it possible that helps you in those close games, or that it leads you into more of those close games?
It could. I mean, you think about it, the kind of offense you'd want to have late in games to kind of seal up the clock, you'd want Ezekiel Elliott, right? You'd want that great running game, that great offensive line. You'd want to hold on to the ball for the final 4 minutes of the game. And that could be a case. But typically with the Cowboys under Jason Garrett, especially with this Ezekiel Elliott roster, they have not been great in close games. They've been about average. So you would figure it would have shown up before 2019 if that were the case. And this is a team that even in the first half of last season were not especially great in one-score games. It was really during the second half, once they added Amari Cooper, that they kind of got cooking with that the winning close games.
That's a big deal, though. The way Cooper played for them, and they traded a first-round pick for him, they were kind of a different offense.
Sure.
They might be a little different offense, so they're changing coordinators. Scott Linehan out, Kellen Moore in. We don't know what kind of coordinator he's going to be. It's his first time, and just so much uncertainty. I mean, we're looking at these guys back here. The guy in the middle has 1 year left on his deal. The guy on the right has 1 year left on his deal. He's got a couple, but there's a contract situation as we sit here recording this. There's a contract situation with Ezekiel Elliott and Amari Cooper, who has 1 year left. So if that kind of stuff sort of were to bleed into the season, then you'd have a situation where there could be distractions that show up that the numbers might not have forecast.
100%. And I think there is that sort of element where we look back and sort of project on what happened earlier in the year, where let's say the Cowboys don't sign those guys and they have great years. It's, they had a great contract year. And if they struggle, then it's, there was the uncertainty and they didn't get paid. Or if they do get paid, then it's like, they got comfortable or they got rewarded. You can make that kind of spin that any way you want.
Yeah, so there's a lot of reasons to think that they might slip, which, by the way, including the bizarre fact that no one's won the NFC East 2 years in a row since 2004. So you can't pick the Cowboys, because it never happens. But if they were to take a step forward or not decline, what would be the reason for that?
It's got to be the offensive line. And the strength of this team, no matter what, the guys behind us, they're great players. The best players on this team are Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, and Travis Frederick. Those guys combined to miss 21 games a year ago. Travis Frederick had a virus that cost him the entire season. Tyron Smith wasn't healthy. This is an offense that, at the end of the day, they're going to rely on their offensive line to keep them afloat and to create holes in that running game. And if they're going to be better in 2019, it's going to be because those three guys and the offensive line as a whole is healthier and more productive than it was in 2018, when it was still good enough, by the way, to get them to the postseason.
Right, and that even when Smith and Martin were on the field, they were playing hurt a lot of the time. And it's not the first year that Tyron Smith has had that happen, so it's definitely worth watching. That's a player definitely worth watching to see if he holds up over the length of a full season, where the Cowboys, as usual, have very high expectations.
Yeah, and it's going to be a tough division, too. The Eagles, everyone thinks they're going to be in the running. They're a great team, loaded roster, even better than they were a year ago. The Giants, they've improved. I know it's a little scary to say. I think they could be better than they were a year ago. Washington, we're not sure to say, but Cowboys are going to be playing a first-place schedule. That's going to be tough for them, as opposed to a year ago. So I still think they're going to be a good team. I just don't think they're going to be quite as they're not going to get as much out of what they have as they did a year ago.
Well, the good thing with the NFL is we will all get to find out together. Keep watching to find out which teams besides the Cowboys we think could make big steps backwards or forwards in 2019. And for more premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.